Hello, everyone. I hope all of you are having a good day so far. Um, two things before we begin taking notes today. All right, one, make sure you complete the Chapter 10, Section 1 key terms. Those 4 words, get them to me by 3 p.m. today. And the other announcement is you do have homework for tonight, but it is not due until Thursday. Okay, and that is the homework assignment on containing Soviet expansion. The worksheet's titled Containment. It's in Schoology. Should be visible for you guys to download into Notability Complete and then send back to me in Schoology. It is a long worksheet, okay, but it is directly related to the 2 slides that we're going to be covering today, and it gets into some more information that we'll cover in our conference on Thursday. All right. So with that said, if you can take out your notes, we're going to pick up where we left off yesterday. Yesterday we talked about the Iron Curtain, which kind of divided Europe into the Western democratic European countries and then the Eastern communist countries. And Winston Churchill is the one who kind of coined that term, Iron Curtain, right? The barrier between democratic nations and communist nations. Okay, and the United States, when the Cold War began, a lot of Americans worried about Truman's leadership. A lot of them were in doubt that Truman could be as capable of a leader as FDR. He was very unknown. He was just a vice president, and Truman is going to basically waste no time in showing his leadership qualities. All right, the first Cold War challenges he faced were in Greece, Iran, and Turkey. Okay, and Harry S. Truman became president as a result of FDR's death in April of 1945. Okay, so definitely know that when the Cold War begins, a lot of Americans were somewhat in doubt and somewhat worried. All right, Truman is the president at the start of the Cold War. All right, you should know that. Okay, know that he is the president at the start of the Cold War, and his leadership is untested. All right, meaning that no one's ever tested his, how good of a leader he could be. Okay, but he wastes no time. All right, 2 years into being president, all right, and immediately when the Cold War starts, all right, the Truman Doctrine is established in March 1947. And the Truman Doctrine was put together when communist-led revolts broke out in Greece. Greek communities threatened to take over the government. At the same time, you have the Soviet government expanding into 2 nations on its southern border, Turkey and Iran. And Truman is going to request Congress, all right, to aid Greece and Turkey. He's going to request money, all right, to be allocated to help those 2 countries from the Soviet government's expansion into them. All right, much like how Trump, asked Congress for all that money to provide aid to small businesses during this coronavirus pandemic. All right, Truman kind of did the same thing, just he asked Congress for money just for a different thing, to fight communism, not the coronavirus. Okay, and in that request to Congress, all right, Truman stated that the United States would oppose the spread of communism, and he stated a principle, okay, that becomes known as the Truman Doctrine. He declared, okay, that it must be the policy of the United States to support free peoples who are resisting attempted subjugation by armed minorities or by outside pressures. He declares that the U.S. would oppose the spread of communism. That is what the Monroe Doctrine establishes, and it is still something that makes up our foreign policy today that a lot of presidents will use. Okay, it also promises the United States directly would give aid to countries who are fighting off communism, and blocking communist expansion becomes known as, and this policy of blocking communist expansion becomes known as containment. Okay, another term you're going to need to know. Okay, and containment, okay, um, was policy to limit Soviet expansion in Europe and throughout the world. And the United States really didn't have the military alone to contain communism. And after World War II, much of Europe kind of lay in ruins. And a lot of people in Europe felt as if capitalism was not going to repair the damaged economies as a result of World War II. So a lot of desperate Europeans believed that communism might be the best way to build back their economies, okay, specifically in areas such as Italy and France. And that was a major crisis going on in the United States. The United States did not want, communism to spread to Italy and France. So, Secretary of State at that time, George Marshall, right, he is going to propose a plan to give financial aid, all right, to give economic assistance in June 1947 to European nations. And between 1948 and 1951, the United States will loan 16 Western European nations, all right, France and Italy were included, all right, $12 billion, okay, and it was a huge success. It's going to help countries such as France, West Germany, Italy, and then others build new factories, schools, hospitals, railroads, bridges, and other aspects of infrastructure that were destroyed during World War II. Okay, so that is a big, basically, tactic against the spread of communism. Make sure you know what the Marshall Plan is. Know that George Marshall is the one that proposed the Marshall Plan. All right, that's why it's named after him. He was the Secretary of State for Harry S. Truman. All right, make sure you know that the Cold War, the president at the start of the Cold War is Harry S. Truman. Okay, and know what the Truman Doctrine is. All right, that first bullet point is basically what the Truman Doctrine is. All right, and that was issued in March 1947. Okay. Then, all right, so after the United States makes two tactical movements in containing Soviet expansion, all right, you have another problem, specifically in Germany. All right, and the focus of Cold War hostility shifts to Germany, going back to the Yalta Conference when the Allies, American, British, French, and Soviet troops agreed to divide Germany into 4 zones. And the capital of Germany, all right, Germany's capital city, was Berlin. Okay, you should know that. Okay, know that that was the capital city. Okay, and the Allies agreed to divide Germany into 4 zones. All right, Berlin, the capital of Germany, was also divided into 4 zones between American, British, French, and Soviet troops. By 1948, all right, the Western powers believed it was now time to reunite all of Germany, but Joseph Stalin disagreed with that and was bitterly opposed to this move. And later that year, in June, all right, the Soviets set up a blockade around the entire city of Berlin, and this prevented the delivery of food supplies and other items to the to the millions of residents in Berlin. And Stalin basically gambled that the Western Allies would accept the communist takeover of the city of Berlin. All right, he did not anticipate that the Allies would respond with a massive airlift. Okay. All right, the Allies will have an airlift, and that's another term, all right, you should know. All right, an airlift is basically when cargo planes fly over an area and deliver tons of supplies to people, such as food, clothing, hygienic type items like toothpaste, soap, so forth. And eventually, after the airlift goes on for over the course of a year, all right, Joseph Stalin calls off the blockade, and Western planes are no longer needed to drop off supplies to the residents of Western Berlin. Okay, but what happens is the Soviets in May 1949, all right, they keep their half. All right, they take over basically their half or quarter that they had of Berlin, and they build a wall. Okay, and October of 1949, all right, France, Britain, and the U.S. combine their zones, and that becomes West Germany, or the Federal Republic of Germany, and the Soviet zone becomes known as the German Democratic Republic, or East Germany. And you have two Germanys now that exist. You have West Germany, which is the Democratic Germany, and then East Germany, which is the more communist regime country. And many of these Germans, right, in the eastern part will flee to Western Germany. Okay, and that's when in August 1961, all right, East Germany built a wall to kind of separate East and West, and this wall kind of symbolized the divide between Germany and Europe, and the divide between communism and Western European countries. Okay, so there's a lot in this slide. I know it may seem maybe a little bit confusing. What you need to know, all right, is know that the Allies divided Germany into 4 zones: American, British, French, Soviet. The capital, Berlin, was also divided into 4 zones: American, British, French, Soviet. And then in 1948, the Western countries wanted to reunite all of Germany. Stalin disagreed, so they set up a blockade around the entire city, not allowing the Allies into the zones that they had at the Yalta Conference. Okay, so they send food supplies there, to the 2 million residents of Western Berlin. After a year, the blockade is called off. Okay, Stalin probably did not do anything to prevent the airlift, because that would be an act of war, and World War III would have started. Okay, and then in October 1949, after the blockade was called off by Stalin, right, France, Britain, and U.S. combined their zones, and you have the formation of Western Germany, and then the Soviet zone becomes known as East Germany, or the German Democratic Republic. And then you have the Federal Republic of Germany. A lot of the Germans in East Germany flee to West, right? But eventually, August 1961, a wall was there to kind of separate these two governments. Okay, and it was a symbol of a divided Germany and a symbol of a divided Europe. Okay, and for 28 years, that wall stood there. All right. So this is the last slide for today. All right, make sure you get all this information down. All right, and understand the division of Berlin, the division of Germany, and we will pick up with the notes when we conference again on Thursday. If you have any questions on these 2 slides, you can certainly ask me in the conference as well. All right. I hope all of you have a good day. Make sure you get the worksheet done and completed to me by Thursday. Enjoy your activity day tomorrow, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the conference. Thank you for your time.